How's it going, everybody? This is your boy, and I'm here talking to you about Assassin's Creed again, specifically the RPG style of Assassin's Creed and a lot of the arguments against it, because this is all just my opinion. So before the turn on me, like the internet culture likes to feed into, I just want to say this is all my opinion, but I'm going to explain it. Because with the release of Assassin's Creed Mirage, I have been looking at how it comes back to the original roots of Assassin's Creed. And if we look at the gameplay, we can tell it still widely mimics the control style of Assassin's Creed Origins, Odyssey, Valhalla, you name it. Same controller scheme, and I'm guessing there's going to be the same weapons equip system if they follow the same pause menu with the same armor sets. So obviously the original Basim outfit that is in the trailers and the games and all the gameplay is probably just one of many outfits, but that's a given for the current Assassin's Creed franchise, unless you're playing Assassin's Creed 1, obviously. But a variety of colors and different costumes has been around since even Assassin's Creed 2 that not a lot of people really remember nowadays. So obviously there are going to be some armor sets just like Valhalla, because I see it following the coding style of Valhalla, all the same controllers. And really the big thing that they're coming back to is you are a hidden one, aka an assassin. You're following the creed. You're Basim, so obviously you're going to have Loki's nature and you're going to do some stuff, especially with that last Valhalla mission with Rashad. A conflict between Basim and Rashad is definitely going to be very important. And there is going to be far more buildings to climb off, jump off, do leap of faiths, do assassinations, etc., you name it. So we're going to see more elemental stuff. We're not going to be assassin-adjacent people like Eivor, who just managed to inherit a hidden blade. We're not going to be an Isu descendant disguised as a demigod, even though I did honestly enjoy what Assassin's Creed Odyssey did with that, because it was new. It was exploring a whole nother section of the lore of the universe that had not been explored before, and it gave us something new. But because it's not about being an assassin, and instead of the Templars you had the Cult of Cosmos, it's not an Assassin's Creed game, but let me tell you, it's a game that was fun, vast, filled with content, filled with different armor sets. It had variety. Every playthrough was nearly different, and it just felt like a world I wouldn't mind returning to. Valhalla, I liked some parts of the storyline. I didn't overall think it was my favorite Assassin's Creed. I definitely had times where it shined, like the Thane armor, obviously, but I just think that the map was bland, and you were lucky if you got to climb on something once every 5 hours while playing. It did have different elements because you were a Viking in England occupied Dane occupied England, but it added that hostility to it, so the cloak was very necessary when you walk through. But here's a secret. I didn't care when I was walking through that. I would just hack through anybody in my way because I wanted to be an actual true-to-life Viking. Speaking of which, Valhalla, you really, really humanize the Vikings a little too much. But a lot of people like to come down on these RPG-style Assassin's Creeds, and they say it's not the Assassin's Creed style of controllers or whatnot, or this isn't Assassin's Creed. My big thing against that is one of the most popular Assassin's Creeds to ever grace the screens is Assassin's Creed 4. Edward wasn't an assassin until the very end. They were there, but they were a super small part of the game. Nobody wanted to address that. Sure, you had Mary Read, of course, who was an assassin, but she dipped in and out, and for the most part, you were just looting, destroying other ships, building up your jackdaw, and it was more of a pirate simulator than an Assassin's Creed game. It did have actually a good dialogue in the story of standing for something, and I actually really enjoyed that game for that reason. But a lot of people don't forget times where Assassin's Creed had still had the controller aspects for sure, but the assassins were very obscure. It wasn't part of anything really, and a lot of it just kind of got overlooked. But it's popular nowadays to hate on Origins, Odyssey, and Valhalla because they're
too much like Dark Souls
or too much like an RPG. when I think that's what every game is nowadays. I mean, not really. Obviously, there's your Call of Duties and your Battlefields, your first-person shooters, your fighting games, your Kenshins, your Mortal Kombats, your UFC 4s. But a lot of people like to look at the RPG Assassin's Creed like it's a slap in the face to the game, when we have other times where they divulged from the storyline, obviously, didn't make the Assassin's Creed that big of a part, just like Assassin's Creed 4, but that is one of the most celebrated Assassin's games of all time. They even had Assassin's Creed Rogue. Why didn't they just call it Templars? Because Rogue was all about humanizing the Templars and dehumanizing the Assassins. Sure, the Assassins were a bigger part, but you weren't part of the Assassin's Creed. Nobody really complained about that. But when they decide to use ancient Greece, to which demigods were a huge part in ancient Greek mythology, aka alleged history if you read Herodotus, well, then I guess it's fine to criticize it, chastise it, because that's an issue. It's not like those things have been talked about for the entire game. It's not like the things have been talked about in Assassin's Creed 2, Brotherhood, Revelations, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed, well, not really Black Flag. The technology, of course, was in Unity. Some of it was in Syndicate, and a lot of it actually was hinted at in Origins. Speaking of which, a lot of people are like, oh, well, Assassin's Creed Origins, you weren't really a hidden one or an assassin until it was founded. Yeah, that's why they call it Origins. I just think that there's a deep-seated, embedded internet narrative meant to make people hate this RPG style of Assassin's Creed. And for people who don't like this, I have another point about the RPG styles of Assassin's Creed, where you've always been able to change armor, obviously. You've always had different collectibles that you've been collecting throughout the map. Let's face it, Assassin's Creed has always been kind of a free roam style RPG where you build up a character. Oh yeah, you have Cassandra and Alexios to choose from. Well, guess what? You also had Jacob and Evie Fry to alternate between, so I guess that goes out the window, doesn't it? But I guess you fight the Minotaur one time and then it's all over, because that's not Assassin's Creed, is it? Well, there's a thing called timelines, my friend. Have you ever seen Legend of Zelda? How many times has the controller design changed in that game? How many elements have become foreign? Because I didn't know what Elden Canyon was the first couple games, like Ocarina and Majora's Mask. I did know what it was in Twilight Princess. And then we got Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are so different from any of these Legend of Zelda games that, nobody complains about it. A lot of people say, well, gaming's past its golden age. Now, with microtransactions and some other stuff like XP boosters that you have to pay for, you're incentivized to pay for, I understand what you're talking about. Game companies can get greedy, but for the most part, what else are these game companies supposed to do? Like, it's code that has a front end of 3D art over it pretty much, and it's very entertaining to play and look at. I'm not trying to sound like a pessimist. That's just what video games are. You got to take it for what it is. It's a game, it's meant to be enjoyed, but we have a whole internet space of a lot of people who just try to find things to complain about that are really not worthy of our angry attention. Except the fact that people like to mess with the RPG style. That's what this Angry Ramble's about, so it's only okay when I do it. Do you understand? But sure, they change the controller style, or they can change the way that the game is overall played, but that's just them trying to keep it fresh, because obviously we're just playing with computer programs at the end of the day, and there's only so much one can do. Is this game disc supposed to spawn arms, give you a back rub, cook you a steak with some white shell pasta, make you a glass of hot milk before you go to sleep, before you're finally satisfied? Or are you just going to take it that video games have been around for a very long time, and maybe us as human beings have become desensitized to them? Because I used to play GoldenEye when I was a little kid, and now I could look back and see how far video games have come, and the games I play in my adult years are way more advanced, way more interesting than GoldenEye was, because now there's voice actors, there's different quest lines, there's more event listeners that are added to the alleged JavaScript that's in the background. And I get it, this is just a video for fun where I could do a bit of a ramble, so excuse me for overreacting. But this is just one of the things that I don't get. Why do we tend to mess with the Assassin's Creed RPG style so much, or try and nitpick reasons to hate these games when obviously these games are not all the same? They all have their shortcomings, right? But a lot of people on the internet like to dramatize it with oh, it just wasn't a good enough game compared to so and so. And maybe they're right in some senses. Maybe not every game is created equal. Not every story that is written in these games is going to be as memorable or philosophical. But we like to choose these popular things to rip on about games, and maybe a few of us like it, and maybe we're coming off like, oh, you should respect my opinion above all else's because it's different. But there's a lot of different things in these Assassin's Creed games, and they're never always going to be the same. If we were going to go back to the roots of the original Assassin's Creed games, we might as well take out all the good stuff that we liked about these games, like the naval combat, which probably is going to be gone in Assassin's Creed Mirage, unless there's a part of the map that I'm not seeing yet that we're probably going to explore. And we completely throw the baby with the bathwater and just say, hey, these games have given us nothing since Assassin's Creed 2. Obviously, that's not what you guys are saying. Obviously, you guys have beef with the way the Assassin's Creed games are playing now. And maybe in some senses, okay, I could see why you have grievances, but not everything always stays the same. And just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's not playable. It's not like you can't still sneak around in these games. But when you go through time period after time period, there's different ways these companies are trying to experience to keep it fresh. So thank you for listening to my angry ramble, but I am going to say one thing: microtransactions. Peace.